I want to read now a file that I have in my Google files where I transcribed a video that I watched of Marc Hammer, who channels Jesuha, or Jesus, and he entitled this message, The Meaning of Ascension. And that is kind of on all our minds lately, and so I thought I would read to you what I transcribed of that video. And I think you can look for his other words if you look for Jon Marc Hammer, because he has brought through a lot. But anyway, I want to read this one to you. The Meaning of Ascension, channeled by Jon Marc Hammer. Now we begin. Oh, I might mention that when he channels, his eyes are shut completely. It's really interesting to watch him when I watch the video, which I watched several times. It was such a great video of him. Now we begin. Indeed, greetings unto you, beloved and holy children of light divine. Indeed, greetings unto you, beloved and holy and only Son of God. Indeed, greetings unto you, precious brothers and sisters. And indeed, I come forth from that place, which is of perfect peace, and of perfect love, and of perfect light. And therefore I come forth unto you in this hour, from the place in which you abide eternally. Forever the Son of God is one, and the appearances of this world cannot shake that, and cannot take your truth and your reality from you. Therefore, understand well that I come forth always in joy, to abide with you, to walk with you, to celebrate with you the one truth, the one reality, that is before time is, and shall remain when the purpose of time is completed. Who then am I? I am but what you are, and therefore I come forth from the place in you, which is of a perfect remembrance, a remembrance of a reality given and not created, given and sustained in love. For in truth the Holy Son of God, being neither male nor female, is but the offspring of God, and God is but love. And therefore, since before time is, you are the offspring of light divine. And if that is what you are, and I assure you that it is, it means that forever you remain that light and that truth and that love. I have said many times that you are your Father's only creation. What then is this world that you would see through the eyes of the body, that you would see through the perceptions that you have constructed out of experiences that you have had? And those experiences stretch back indeed to the very beginning of time, for there has never been a time that you have not been. Therefore, indeed, you have already tasted all worlds and all times, and there is nothing outside of you that you have not already tasted. What then is this world? In reality, it is a world made in error. It is a world that has been made, sprung forth, if you will, from the one thought, and that thought is, I am separate from God. Therefore I shall create unlike him, and I shall be the maker of my own world, and my creations shall not mirror the eternal, changeless beauty and love that the Father is. And what more perfect place would there be to house that part of the mind that believes itself to be separate from God than in the appearance of a body? And you know, and you all know, what that feels like, to truly believe beyond all doubt that you abide within the structure, the space and volume of a body. And therefore you look out through the physical eyes, and at times you believe you see a fearful world. At times you believe that you can be hurt, that things can be taken from you, that there can be gain and loss. And above all, through the perception born of what must be called an illusion, you begin to believe that the peace of God can be taken from you, that the reality of who you are can be threatened. And then there comes complexity upon complexity upon complexity, as you strive to create your safety in the world of your perceptions. And you have journeyed countless times through the fields of birth and death, creating bodies, if you will, struggling with them, doing the best you can, always feeling at times a bit of anxiety because you can't seem to quite control this thing. And it always seems to end in death. Friends come and go. Projects seem promising and then falter. And in the end, always there seems to be waiting for you the experience of death. And the mind that would seek peace, the mind that would choose to understand, to know, to transcend, begins its journey with honesty, to look truly at the feelings that are held within, to understand that there is this core of not feeling quite safe in this world, as though you were a stranger here. And yet, your world would teach you to struggle to make yourself safe here, to not be a stranger here, to learn how to control this world so that you can find the safety that you seek. That process is what I have called the drama of the illusion of separation. And if you would well receive it, it has all come forth from but one thought held in the holy mind of the Son of God. Imagine, if you will, a grand light without beginning and without end, vast beyond any imagination. And into that light, one thought emerges: I am separate from my Father. And with the perception born of the belief in that thought, that one light explodes, becomes fragmented into an infinite number of points of light, all seemingly separate one from another, and yet still made of light. With the perception of separation there is born fear, and with fear there is contraction, and contraction creates density, and the point of light that you become identified with as yours and yours alone, and being separate from all others, begins to take on the form of what we could call the ego, the small part of your true mind that believes it is your master, that believes it is in control. And indeed, that small part of your mind is where fear resides. It is where contraction resides. It is where the experience of hurt and doubt and confusion resides. And you would become indeed unwittingly identified with that small part of the mind. And yet the whole while, in reality, no fragmentation has ever occurred. For the Son of God, that grand and vast and perfect light, that is the perfect reflection of God's image, which is love, remains united as one. And in all of the journeys of space and time, if you subscribe to the belief in reincarnation, which indeed holds value if it helps you to learn that life is eternal, through all journeys, lifetimes belong not just to you. For if you would well receive it, you have lived the life of every being. For though you would look through your eyes, the eyes of the body, and see other bodies, and therefore draw the conclusion that there must be other minds, other souls, I tell you that in truth the Son of God remains one. And if that is truth, and I assure you that it is, love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor is yourself. And when you look upon the face of your brother or sister, learn indeed to begin to look beyond the appearance of the body, and see naught but the face of Christ before you. For in your recognition of the one that stands before you, you must then acknowledge that it takes the eyes of Christ to recognize the face of Christ. Can you then begin to imagine where time began? It began with you. It began in your holy mind. And in time, and if time began there, it resides there. And the end of time is found nowhere but in you. Now, in these journeys, there have been a multitude of experiences, some pleasant, some painful, and they have slowly created for you a construct, a prism, if you will, through which you would view creation. And the process of awakening, the process of the atonement, the process of salvation truly requires not a striving, but an allowing, not a seeking, but a finding. And the process of the atonement is the process whereby you remember the truth of your reality and celebrate with me the only fact that has ever truly been. I and my Father are one, now, here, before, prior, and through all times. I remain the Son of God. The process of the atonement is the process of remembrance, of joining back together what has seemed fragmented. And what joins back together that which has been fragmented? Love. Love, a simple four-letter word in your language, and a rather grand one. Indeed, only love heals. Only love overcomes separation. Only love restores the son to the kingdom of heaven. Only love. And why? Because love is what you are. That is why it is so important to remember that every loving thought is true, and everything else is but a cry for help and for healing. Whether it is something that arises within you or within your brother or sister, rest assured that every such cry truly is coming forth within you. Are you therefore your brother's keeper? Indeed, you are, not out of moral sanction, but because it's the truth. You are your brother, and that is why salvation cannot be found apart from your neighbor. Gone is the time of disappearing into caves, hoping that by focusing on your attention on your eyebrows, that somehow you'll achieve a great and enlightened state. This time is a time of endings. There is indeed a great quickening going on in the consciousness of mankind, an acceleration of the process of remembrance, because mankind desires it. And salvation comes in relationship, for you cannot return into the kingdom by yourself. But as you extend yourself to your brother and sister, and embrace them with the arms of the love of Christ that dwells within you, you will bring them to yourself, and together we walk to God. I have come forth in this hour to ask you, to all that will hear these words, to ask you to join with me now in wasting not another moment, but in setting aside the roar and din of the world, in setting aside your fears and your doubts, to begin the practice of claiming the truth of your only reality. I and my Father are one. But where I walk, my Father walks also. And where I am, there is naught but the presence of love. For I have learned how not to tolerate error in myself. And because I choose to be the presence of love, through me salvation is given unto this world. I have indeed come forth as your friend and as your brother, not as someone above you, certainly never as someone apart from you. I have come to ask you to join with me in being the light that lights all worlds, in being that love that restores the union of Father and Son. And in that union, indeed, there will be a healing that shall be witnessed upon this plane, this physical world. Why? Time itself never needed to be created, but it was. And because you have chosen to perceive yourself as separate from God in time, you then remember your union with God. And time is given unto you only that you will use it constructively.